Hello, all of my K through O friends. I'm Kris and I'm your Cardvoyant, and today we're going to be doing your reading for May. So if you haven't seen the other video or you just kind of stumbled upon this, this is something new I'm trying. I've been thinking about it for a long time, a very long time, about how to do a general reading. So it's not just like everybody in the world. And I know that many readers do it by astrology signs, and I know nothing about astrology. I mean, I honestly don't. And some people are amazing and really good at it, but I felt like I couldn't do that. Like it wouldn't be truthful to do that, I guess you would say, but it just didn't feel like me. So, but I was like, how do I group people? And just recently, I mean, literally, I thought about this for months and months. And just recently, I had this like flash. And so I figure it's like, my intuition kicking in to do it by the first letter of your first name. And so that's how I'm doing it. I'm grouping them in groups of 5, basically. The last group has 6. But it's meant to be, I mean, names are very personal, especially what we call ourselves. So that's what you should go by. If your name is Wilhelmina, but everybody calls you Mimi, then you would go through M. If you liked it, like, if you feel like that's who I am, I'm Mimi, then you listen to the M reading. Now you can also, especially if you have, like, I don't hate my name, I don't hate Wilhelmina, it's just like not quite me. But there may be a portion of the W reading that, that may resonate with you. So obviously feel free to listen to that. Feel free to listen to any of them. This is the first try at it. I feel like the readings will probably get, better as we go along, more detailed as we go along. That happens with my regular clients. I'll read for them for a while, and then, things start to get more and more specific, because a lot of general information comes through at first. So even though they talk about the topic that you ask about. So I will be using for this reading my Rider-Waite deck. It's the most familiar deck for most people. There's tons of tarot decks. Most of them are at least partially kind of based on their imagery in Rider-Waite. So it's a very good deck to start with, and it's the deck that I always use for new clients. So we'll start with this. I may use other decks in the future, but this is a really good starting point. A couple things about how I read. I read intuitively, so I also don't use like traditional spreads. I just get a feel for how many cards to use. And sometimes they'll ask, for a specific number of cards, which I'm going to do in this case. I won't always do it for these monthly readings, but in this case, I thought the first one that came through was 5 cards, and so I felt like that would be a good thing to do for the readings. I very, very seldom use clarifying cards, but you never know. We'll see. Especially as we go along. So, as I'm shuffling it, generally I get a feel for how many cards to use, but in this case, we know I'm asking them to work with 5 cards. How the spread should look, but I know that also, so I'm them to work within that framework. And I just ask, because I am at this time, what do we need to know? K through O people, what do you need to know? What would be helpful to know? What you need to know for the month of May 2026. So I'm going to shuffle just for a second here. Ordinarily, I shuffle for quite a long time, but I've done some like a little bit of prep as far as trying to connect with guides and all that. So hopefully I'll shuffle this on. Give me just a second here. Holy cow. The cards are so different from the last reading. So in a way that it feels like a very good thing, because then we're talking like specifically about this group. I asked specifically about your group. So we have here this very interesting cards. In 5 cards, you have 2 major arcana cards. Now, major arcana cards, well, most tarot decks have 78 cards, and of those 78 cards, only 22 are major arcana. They're all named, numbered. Their name usually talks a little bit about what they're about. So, you know, they're these big picture things. They're important cards. Sometimes they talk about an entire personality, you know, a specific person. Sometimes the whole situation or a whole lifetime. I mean, they're very kind of big picture cards, umbrella cards, right? And so you've got 2, and they start off each row. So I read top to bottom, left to right. So I'm going to start with a major arcana card. Besides that, you've got a sword card, a pentacles card, and a cups card. Obviously, we'll talk about them. So first of all, you get the Wheel of Fortune. And the Wheel of Fortune, I mean, it's like an optimistic card, but it's also a very practical card because it's really talking about sort of this wheel of life, the ups and downs of life, right? You've got these symbols here that are really talk about the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. They're really talking kind of what tarot talks about too, because the 4 suits of cards talk about fire, water, earth, air, right? And that's what we're talking about here. It's this totality of physical existence. Mostly it talks about like the ups and downs of life, right? I mean, we all have challenges. We all have times when like, everything's going great. You know, I'm so happy and it's a really good day, or it's a really good week, or it's been a really good month or year. But then there are times that it's just, there are difficulties, like small difficulties, and there's other times when like it feels like things fall apart, right? So that's what this card talks about. And it's in the context of these 4 fixed signs of the zodiac, because it's acknowledging that like this is life. This is what life's about. In the somethings, maybe the 2000s, there's a movie called Parenthood, I think. It's like Steve Martin and, is it Steve Martin? I think it's Steve Martin. And Diane Weiss is in it. I can't think of other people. But anyway, at the very end of the movie, you know, he's kind of a troubled kid and all these things happen. And he's sitting back watching this, I think it's a play that's kind of the child and kind of falling apart. And he suddenly has this sort of image of a roller coaster, right? It's like up and down and, you know, the good and the bad and all that kinds of stuff. But it's a thrill ride the whole time, right? It's a thrill ride the whole time. And that's life, okay? You get this card at the very beginning of your reading because I feel like many of you are feeling the weight of the world in some cases, of a lot of stuff that's going on, but a lot of this is very personal. It feels like a lot of you are going through some, like it's kind of like difficult times, but it feels sustained, right? It feels like there's, like it's been a while, like it's not just like stagnant, it feels like difficult energy. This isn't everybody, but I feel like for most even, it's a portion of what's going on in your life. For some people in this group, it's a very big part of what's going on. I feel like for some of you, this has to do with health concerns. It may even be a chronic illness or a lingering illness or something that's undiagnosed, and it's difficult and it just feels frustrating and painful and like you're not being heard, like your voice is not being heard. And it's funny because even as I say that, I feel like that's kind of the theme here, if for whatever reason, or in these many different circumstances in your group, this KO group, it feels like you feel like your voice isn't being heard. So you either feel kind of voiceless, or your voice feels drowned out, or you can't find people to listen, or people just don't listen, right? So it's this feeling of being voiceless in whatever way, but it's extremely frustrating, and I mean, it does kind of border on anger, and yet there's just such like pure intention behind this. I mean, you want to feel better, or you want to be better, or you want your life to be better, or the world to be better, right? And it's just feeling very difficult, and I would say dark, for many of you. And even if, like, in general your life is going well, there is kind of this cloud of difficulties in the country. Might be, financial also, that's overall, but maybe specifically, it may be community-wide or something like that, but it feels a family for sure. But it just feels like this downside. Like, we have this Anubis here, like this kind of little devil character, right? On the downside, and that's kind of what it's feeling like. It just feels difficult. And when you don't have a voice, or when you feel like you're not being heard, it's like, who do I talk to? Who do I even, like, who do I how do I even make an impact here if I nobody will listen, like if I can't be listened to? So there are a couple of things that have to do with this next card. We may talk a little bit more about the Wheel of Fortune, but this Seven of Swords, interesting card, because it's kind of I mean, swords cards are the air cards, right? They talk about our mind. They talk about our physical mind, how we think, how we process information. It talks about anxiety, talks about memories, talks about all of these things going on in our physical brain. Sometimes it talks a lot about how that's connected to the spiritual world. That is, to me, it's much more apt to be talking like that, the sword cards, when the swords are pointed up, or kind of up, and they're like the Ace of Swords, straight up, the Queen of Swords, those kinds of things. And those often talk about a link to the spiritual, sometimes about new beginnings, sometimes about gaining clarity, those kinds of things. However, when swords to me are pointed down, right? This is what, through years of doing this is how I've come to interpret them. And so my guides know that, right? When I get these cards, when they're pointed down like this, it's much more earthly. It's much more troubles or travails or difficulties, however you want to think about it, much more challenging. And in this seven, you can see this character here, the one with a smirk on his face. He's making off with these swords, and in the background, there's these people that are like talking. Maybe they're celebrating some kind of victory or something, but whatever it is, they've left their swords unguarded, and he's making off with them. This is often a card of deception. Sometimes it talks about actual, like, physical thievery. In your case, it's talking about this feeling, for many of you, that your peace is being stolen. Your PEACE, peace, is being stolen. It feels it feels like some of you ask, like, who's playing this trick on me? Like, who's doing this to me? I want to know. And then, even if it's like a physical ailment, sometimes it feels like it's being done to you, right? And that life often feels that way. Certainly, in sort of geopolitics, whether you are in the United States or elsewhere, when you are when you aren't in direct positions of power, and even if you vote, right, after your vote, things happen, right? And so in that kind of scenario, it really can feel like your peace is being stolen, because you feel like, I can't do anything about this. Somebody do something, but what can I do, right? Um, it's kind of very unsettling. Now, I will say, often when I have this kind of spread where there's cards, a smaller number of cards set on top, one or two, sometimes three in a larger spread, they very often talk about like the situation right now, like what's going on, and then the bottom cards will kind of be like, here's some stuff about that. So what they're kind of getting at here for you overall is this idea of the world turning in such a way that it, at this moment, feels especially challenging. And I will say again that, I mean, this can be relationships, jobs, certainly, definitely, like the world and society and, the United States, or whatever country is. I mean, what happens in the US affects a lot of other countries, but the leader of your country or your state or province or area or community, may be causing that same kind of anxiety. But certainly health comes up kind of a lot right now. They're just kind of talking about that. And that may be something chronic, it may be something big, it may be something small and just sort of annoying, but like, how do I fix this so I can feel close to 100%, right? Or I'll take 90%, whatever I can get. And it feels that way. It feels like somebody feels like they're actually almost like stealing that away, or you wonder about that, like how is this happening? Why is this happening to me? On all these different levels, health and otherwise. So let's look at this next row of cards, because it starts off, like kicks off with this row of cards with the World card. Now, the World card is the final card of the major arcana, so it's kind of a fulfillment card. Okay. So what they're talking about, I can talk more about the card, but let me tell you what they're talking about with this card, just right at the back, because they're like, this is what it's about. There are things that are being sort of brought to fruition that for a long time have needed to happen, and we've been working toward, right? Working toward happening. Now, even as I say that, societally, they are talking also individually. In our lives, we have plans, right? Coming into our life, we make these plans before we come into this lifetime, with the aid of our guides, or especially our main guide. I always refer to as like our counselor guide, and that guide is with you to plan this lifetime and throughout your life, and will be with you again to kind of assess things when you're back in the non-physical. And this guide, with this guide, you will go over goals, like, what do you want to do in this lifetime? What do you want to learn? How do you want to grow? And they will present you with, as you sort of choose things, probabilities and possibilities. So you kind of know some of the situations you may be in, some of the situations that you maybe use to help you learn what you want to learn. And most often, I was going to say quite often, but most often, these are challenging circumstances, because that is how we grow, right? We grow by through difficult times. We would call them difficult times. Sometimes it doesn't always have to be that way, but very often it is, right? Now, through that process, you definitely knew that you would probably pretty obviously be here during this time, and some of the possibilities and probabilities that would be going on locally within the family group that you're in, globally, right? And you came, because so many of us here, and in my earth, I have to point this way because I'm backwards. I have a book called Earth Energy: What It Is and How to Use It, and in that book, it talks about those times. There's different sessions that talk about where we are right now, and one of the things that it says, this is a channeled book. One of the things that they say is that almost everybody who's here now has been incarnated to Earth many times, right? Many times. You didn't have to come, right? You've learned a lot. Of course, there's always more we can learn, of course, but you chose to be here at this time to sort of bring about change in yourself, maybe in others, people that you sort of incarnate with, other souls that you know and help. Certainly the world, because we are moving toward an awakening. And of course, it's not going to be everybody, and it's not going to be like on the news, we're all awake now. But there is this idea of many people understanding their own power, their own connection, the ways in which you create your life, the ways in which you contribute to the growth of the universe. And above all, kind of understand that in this connection, by connecting, by understanding your soul self and the ways in which it is such a part of you, we are bringing about this change, and we are bringing about a closer connection. And that closer connection with the non-physical world and those who inhabit it at any given time, through that connection, we are going to be able to progress sort of exponentially faster. And it's in all things. It's in, technology, medicine, even things like music and art, the way that we treat the planet, our relationship with animals and creatures, right? All of these things are going to be greatly enhanced and move forward in a way that hasn't happened in this iteration of Earth life. In fact, we have been stagnant, where we've been in this constant thing of moving forward, then falling back, moving forward and falling back. You can see it in the last, several hundred years, where progress is made and then there's a falling away. Certainly, even within the last 100 years, you can see that. So this card is talking about the ways in which your life, you as an individual, are helping to change the world, to bring this about. How do we do this? By doing it in our own lives. The reason that this comes up like kind of after the Seven of Swords is it's talking about the power that you possess to always find joy and happiness and love, and like within, for yourself. I mean, this comes from within, so you can always find that, but also how you always have support and guidance and direct connection to your guides, people that you love who have passed on, master guides. I mean, the universe itself, source. We are all a part of source. So of course, that is a part of this. They kind of want you to understand how important you are to the overall process that's taking place. But everything that happens kind of on the macro also happens on the micro. So this is very relevant to your own life and in facing challenges that you may be facing in your life. Again, you sort of have these 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. They're talking about the totality of Earth life that can be sort of whittled down to all of these small moments and experiences, right? So if you are facing health challenges, they want you to know that the place to find strength, to find happiness, to find peace, to find guidance. And sometimes that guidance comes, most often, almost always, that guidance comes in the form of your intuition, right? And even healing. Now, when I say healing, there's a lot I think that we are capable of doing and healing ourselves. However, we are blessed to live in a time where modern medicine is amazing. So the combination, right? The combination where your intuition kicks in is kind of in asking to find the right person, in finding, asking your guides to help you find the words that are going to make this person pay attention, whether it's a doctor or a nurse or a therapist, whatever you are, whomever you are using to sort of help you to find your path to health. Okay, they're talking about therapists in general because there are many people who are sort of trying to use this tool, new at using this tool, wanting to use this tool, of finding a good therapist, and they're like, yes, yes. They can do so much good. And there are many therapists, many, who understand this connection, this sort of spiritual connection, the energy of intuition, the energy of your soul self. Why? Because they deal with so many people. They see it, right? There are other therapists that, depending on your situation, depending on what you feel you need and what challenge you are trying to overcome or meet, there are things like past life regression therapists that also can be extremely helpful in many ways. I think especially helpful in building and strengthening your own spiritual connection. So that may be a tool for some of you. But overall, this world card is talking about the situation in the world, the many, many challenges that all of us here who have been here so many times before, many of whom like you would consider like master guides or something like that, right? Very intuitive and informed souls, experienced souls. I don't think like old souls. I always think of mature souls. And some of the souls that are wreaking havoc right now are less mature souls. Often in the fact that they have not incarnated many times, so they come to Earth and it's like, oh, like the energy is very dense, and so they get involved in very earthly things, power and money and greed and sometimes anger and violence, those kinds of things, all very fear-based things, right? But for the rest of us, we have this ability to connect because everybody does. Everybody does. It's inherent in us. Some people, very often these immature souls, they want to be cut off, right? I'm like so entrenched in the world. I don't want to hear that. I'm not interested in spiritual things. I'm interested in my own power. I'm interested in sort of subjugating others so that I can feel this power. I'm interested in things. I'm interested in thrills and experiences of all kinds. For the rest of us, there is an opportunity, especially at this time and in this lifetime, during these times, to truly use the gifts that we have, but we all have them, right? Our soul is connected to our physical self, so we can find strength, we can find intuition, uh, we can help build our health, right? We can help uh, heal ourselves in many different ways, sometimes in relationships, sometimes of all kinds, right? Sometimes health-wise, sometimes just in understanding the things that and ways to deal with the things that are most challenging to us, whether it's kids or parents or bosses or coworkers or friends, faith-based communities, sort of club communities, whoever you're dealing with, whatever you're dealing with. This world card, they want you to know that much of what's happening is change to help us connect better, to raise the vibration of ourselves, and therefore, and thereby, raise the vibration of the world. That's the only way we do it, is by starting individually. So, how do you do this? Well, this card, this Three of Pentacles, is just like so appropriate. It's kind of so wonderful because it's talking about building things. It's talking about building. And here you have like the builder, the architect, here he's got his plans, and this monk who's building this church. Pentacles cards are the earth cards. They talk about really earthly things. They often talk about money. They often talk about property and like consumer goods of all kinds. But in the biggest sense, they're the earth cards, and they talk about physical life and what are we doing? Well, you're building something. We're building something in mass, like as a society, as a species, and we all contribute to that. But we are building our individual lives, the growth of our souls, and sometimes, we're helping to build the goals and aspirations and ideas and intuition, all of other people, right? But they're talking about you specifically, and they want you to ask yourself, what are you building? What do you want to build? And then to look at your life and say, is this, are these different aspects of my life? Is my life in totality helping me build those things? Am I moving toward love and light? Am I moving toward the things I want in my life and I want to create in my life? Or am I, for whatever reason, or whoever, or whatever institution, whatever it is that leading me away from it? Like, am I being fooled about my own life? And by fooled, I mean, am I like doing all of these things to be a part of something, or to move to a place that where I don't really want to go, or something I don't really want to be a part of? It's really incumbent upon us to ask these questions if we're trying to build the life that we truly want. Now, we come to life into physical existence to learn many things, but they're talking about, like with this, they're pointing out the plans, right? You have a plan for this life. The biggest sort of overall plan or thing that you are supposed to experience in this life, are entitled to in this life, is joy and happiness and fun and curiosity and sort of wonderful experiences. Now, again, the way we grow is very often, not always, but very often through challenging experiences, but you are meant and you are able to always find joy. Now, I know in really difficult circumstances, it's like, yeah, you try and do it. It can be difficult, but it's always found within you. right? Happiness, there are things that feel good and things that are beautiful and things that bring joy to our lives. But the true joy, joy that can't be taken from us, happiness that can't be taken from us, comes from within. And it's like the knowledge of who you are. It's the thankfulness for being here, and the beauty of the world. And that can be, oh, flowers are beautiful and nature is beautiful and animals are beautiful, but it's also art is beautiful. And this knickknack that I found is beautiful, and my outfit that I have on is beautiful, and it brings me joy and it brings me happiness. Maybe it's a TV show, maybe it's a movie, maybe it's a song, but it's all, those are all pieces that together build this peace and happiness within. And that, nobody can take that away from you. Nobody ever, right? And in no circumstances. And when you see people who are sort of smiling through difficult times, and you're not required to be Pollyanna or anything like that. This is happiness that is also peace. But when you do see people that are sort of smiling through, or seem to have that peace in difficult times, it always comes from within, right? It's not like, I can't pay my bills, but I'm peaceful because I know that, Uncle Joe's going to pay them for me. That's not it. We're talking about, I'm going through a really difficult time. I'm not sure, where my next paycheck or check or money of any kind is coming from, but there is a peace in me, PEACE, that understands that I am a blessed soul, an integral soul connected to source, part of source, connected to everyone else that is having a human experience, that is going through a challenging time to learn. So you work through it, right? You try to fix the situation. You ask for help from your guides. You do what you can. You try. You look into things. You explore. Maybe you go back to school. Maybe you. It could be a million different things, right? It's what you feel. It's what your intuition, which is your feelings, which we're going to talk about in the next card. It kind of guides you toward. It's listening to your guides. It's paying attention to your dreams. All of these things are tools to help you meet these challenges, but all the while you can find this peace, right? This inner happiness that nobody can take from you. And this is true for everybody, every single person. And I assure you that people who are living very fear-based lives, who are so entrenched in physical life that they have purposely or otherwise, like, cut themselves off willingly, right? Because it has to be willingly cut themselves off from their own souls, their guides, the universe, like spirituality, the non-physical world in general. I guarantee you, they do not have that inner peace. In fact, they look for it everywhere. They do things all the time that they think are going to bring them happiness, or a feeling of I'm good, I'm okay, right? I'm okay now. Just because I did this to you, now I feel better about myself. That kind of stuff, that's not peace. It's quite the opposite, right? If you're people looking for those kinds of things and feeding it that way. So this card is urging you, especially this month. I feel like May is it's for kind of everyone. It's been this message of it's spring. It's kind of a rebirth. This is a season when we think about these things and experience it, like we can actually see a new beginning. We can actually see this rebirth. And this is a perfect time to assess and to reconnect spiritually if you're having a difficult time. And that can be anything from meditation that's like a kind of standard, meditation. Maybe you even follow a guided meditation. But, meditation can be listening to music, music that you love, that moves you, right? Or walking outside, taking off your shoes, stepping on the grass, hugging a tree, uh, walking your dog, or, quietly just sort of meditating with your dog. You know how you pet your dog and or your cat or other animal, and you just kind of are. It's almost like sharing a vibration, and animal vibrations are very high, very pure, right? So it can be anything like that. Sometimes people find this when they're driving, not that you should like zone out when you're driving, but it is calming for some people to drive. And you can see, especially if I'm actually taking a drive, so I'm going out into the country or the woods or some beautiful place, the coastline, or, by the lake, whatever it is that sort of brings you happiness, that you can feel at peace, to grow in sort of greater peace. It's really important at this time, and it's also empowering. We create our own lives. We create our own reality. And when we are faced with difficult times, it's really helpful, important even, to sort of imagine yourself out of these times. Think of it when you're out of these times, right? And think of these things, plan for these things, imagine these things, because then you are bringing it to you, right? There's like almost no greater truth in the universe than like attracts like. So if we are focused on just like everything that's bad, it just sort of creates more of it. So it's like this spring, this beautiful rebirth is a perfect time and opportunity to think about the ways in which we want to create a new reality. And it may be very small, it may be very small. I want to be able to spend more time with my spouse, or, my partner, or my parent, or my child, or outdoors, or with my animal. That's not a huge ask. I just want to spend more time. But it's so important. And as we see these smaller things that we bring about, really, because again, we create our own reality, we will be able to do more and more. And those health problems that you are dealing with, that difficult job that you have, the person in your life that's like, oh, this person, as we sort of get in touch with our soul selves, as we use these tools to create, but as we sort of rest in the peace and the love and the happiness that is ours to have always, and that resides within us, not outside of us, not with anything, then we begin to see change. We add to the higher vibration of the universe, our lives, our family, our community, our state, our country, and we begin to meet the challenges and overcome them. Now, it may be this overcome them to, and I actually, I guarantee it will be overcome them to get to this higher level, right? But there will be other challenges down the way, down the road, right? But you've got a tool to deal with it. You've recognized, and take the time to do this if you haven't, challenges that you've overcome in the past, right? Sometimes we have challenge and we don't overcome it, but somehow we're able to get around it, and it'll come back. It'll come back because it's something that we wanted to learn. And so something sort of similar will come back, and it's an opportunity for us to learn and grow and move on from that challenge. I learned that lesson. I'm moving on. That's what this final card is about. And then a last card here, especially kind of in this pyramid looking shape, I think of this as the cornerstone card. This is the last card, the card that you're kind of use to move forward, like you're building on this foundation of this cornerstone card with all this information. And here you have the Eight of Cups. And I like this card a lot. People sometimes think like, oh, it's such a sad card. I think so. I mean, I think it's a very beautiful card that recognizes our own humanity. Cups are the feelings cards, so they do talk about intuition. They do talk about connection. They're often about love and romance and relationships. That can be about any one of these things. You see the water in the background here. I mean, water, these are the water cards, right? But water in tarot always talks about connection. It talks about the non-physical, it talks about psychic things, eternal things, definitely talks about intuition. You can see the red in his cape here. I mean, red is the color of passion. He cares about things, and he knows what he cares about, right? His feet are very much this color too. He's moving on with this passion and knowledge of where he wants to go. Very important. We talked about what I want in my life, and he knows, right? He's taken the time to figure it out, and he's moving toward it very often. And that's what this card is about as well. That means moving away from something, right? Sometimes it's a very bittersweet kind of moving away from, but we know, right? We know it's time, or we know I have to do this. Like I put this off and I have to do this. I have to move forward. That can be difficult. Kind of the beauty of the card is you can see it in this, it's very apparent here in the Rider-Waite, which is why I like this deck also. There's the 8 cups, right? It's 8 of cups. We've got 8 cups, but the way that they're stacked here, it looks like a 9th cup is missing. That's because, and we presume that's because he's got the 9th cup with him. You take with you, as you move forward, you take with you the things that are important to you. That can be people, that can be ideas, that can be faith, right? The faith that you have in moving forward. That can be memories. That can be education. That can be experience, right? This is something I valued. I know this is going to help me moving forward. Taking it with me. And that's the most valuable thing. And as we move forward, especially this month in May, during this season of blossoming and rebirth, it's important to sort of gather to you, my K through O people, the things that are meaningful to you and most dear to you, and to really understand that, right? To think about it, and that will help you understand where you're going, right? What you're moving toward. And here you could see like the steps, like it's going up. That doesn't mean like I've got this arduous journey. These mountains in tarot, and even this sort of hillside that he's climbing up, it talks always about moving to a higher place, moving to a better place, right? Moving to the next level, leveling up, if you will. And that's what this is talking about as well. And that's really what your guides are saying for you this month. It's really a month of assessment. It's a month of kind of understanding what serves you and what doesn't serve you, where you want to be, where you want to go, what you want your life to look like. Then gathering up the things that enable you to do that or are helping you, even in the slightest degree, to do that. And sort of finding the tools, and there's, again, asking for help, your guides doing, looking online, doing research, just like figuring out some possibilities. Your guides will help you with intuition. They truly will, with signs, with happy happenstances that they can help bring about. And mostly they help you notice them, right? That's your intuition. Your guides use that. So all of these tools that you have already can help you figure out begin to figure out, take that step toward creating the life, you build your own reality, creating the life that you want, right? That's the only reason he's leaving, right? He's moving on because he's moving to a better place. And yes, there's a bittersweet feeling here, but this eclipse, right? The moon here is going to move, right? It's going to move. The sun is going to shine. He's he's taking the steps necessary, and this is kind of what they're talking about for you, like assessing where I want to go, assessing, trying to figure out steps I can take, even if it's a very small step, right? Even if it's stepping outside, looking out the window, contemplating things. If you are unable to like physically step outside, reading, maybe you read or watch videos or listen to audiobooks that from people who have overcome the situation you are in, or just people that are upbeat, or things that are upbeat, or music that feels peaceful and good and connects with you to help you feel that beauty and joy and love that you are meant to have, that you can create in your life, that you can always hold in your soul, and that can help you move forward in love and light. And this is really a month to take a step, right? To take a step, do some assessment, figure out what you want to build, right? And take a step. It can be small, it can be large, but you deserve happiness. You're meant to have it. Your life is meant to be interesting and joyful and fun and connective and an experience that brings you the fulfillment that you were seeking before coming into this life, which is always based in love and light and joy. That's yours to have. You're meant to have it. And this month really takes some time to recognize that, to realize that, to realize what it is that makes you happy. It's up to you. It's up to you. This is your life. You create it. This is the month to really start to understand that and to move forward with that, and to always keep that happiness and that faith and that joy and that beauty within. So there you have it. I truly hope this is helpful to you. It may be one piece that resonated. I mean, hopefully something did, and just hopefully the messages are helpful enough and hopeful enough that they bring some measure of that feeling into your life. So until next time, June. Crazy that it's already May. June. I will just say see you next time, and bye for now.